the far-flung reaches of the YouTube galaxy. It's the Outer Rim! Oh, very nice. What an appropriate opening for this week, Rob. Lovely job there. Lovely job on the opener.
I just threw it together today. I was dicking around and thought, since we've got Mark here and we're talking Star Trek philosophies and stuff.
Yeah,
we had a little something extra to
we did a few episodes ago. Rob and I were talking about, like moves that we would make to try and build for a better tomorrow. I think specifically we're talking like, how do we fix America? What are the first steps that we do? And I was thinking like, why don't we take that idea and come at it maybe from the other direction? Pick an idealized utopian future. Talk about how it works, and then maybe see if it's even possible that we get there. So I think
before we get into all that, hey, and my name's Rob.
Oh yes. I'm Darrin.
That's why we're in the Outer Rim, man, because we don't even know. We get all excited. We get all super excited to talk about our stuff, and we forget to do everything else.
Yeah, this is supposed to be then. Is this read with the like and subscribe stuff, or should we get further in before? I don't even like doing that anymore, man.
Wait, do I even have
pandery?
I don't even know if I have any overlay. I had some stuff ready. I did. I had some like backgrounds or was like I had an overlay done, but it just it's suddenly just not even here. As far as that, so I mean, we're talking about like and subscribe. So how about y'all like and subscribe to the Outer Rim podcast? We're me and my friend Darrin here, who we've been making stuff together for a really long time now. Feels like, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the longest time in the world. And we've worked with this gentleman down here below us, Mark, a bunch of times. Darrin and Mark have done a lot more stuff. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't check us out. We're doing something different this week, and I think I want to like and subscribe, motherfucker.
There you
go. Very nice. Very nice.
Like I said, I've been dicking around today.
Nice.
So as you may not have guessed at this point, the idealized future we're going to pick out of the rim is going to be Star Trek, because I mean that's the one everybody knows. And we also know an expert in Star Trek, so it makes it a lot easier to have this conversation. And this is where we introduce Marc from Enchantment of Eternity.
Yeah, we got like maybe 1 billion videos on Star Trek. More like 1,000. Actually, it's literally 1,000. I'm not even exaggerating. Currently going through like every single episode of Star Trek. So yeah, and I usually talk Star Trek with Darrin. So
yeah,
it's great to talk Star Trek some more. And I like to get into sort of the social political aspects of Star Trek too, even though some of my subscribers don't like it very much, but I like to get into it.
Well, I know some people look at it, they see Star Trek as kind of like, the space navy doing their things. Not really what I think Roddenberry's vision was, and not generally what we talk about. Every sci-fi space show tends to have space battles. It's the philosophy, I think, that differentiates Star Trek from so many other different sci-fi future interpretations.
Yeah, I feel like the military aspect of it was a requirement for the studio, for general audiences, in order for them to consume sci-fi. And I think after Roddenberry's passing, some of his successors focused on that aspect of it more than his utopia.
Sure, yeah. I think TNG kind of was considered the kind of apex of the Roddenberry vision. And then after his passing, of course, had, Deep Space Nine, which had kind of more of the frontier war Outpost, and Voyager, which is the exploration one. So yeah, little expansion on the drama there.
Well, going through every single episode of Star Trek and watching it a ridiculous amount of times and analyzing it, I'm noticing that after Roddenberry's passing, particularly with Deep Space Nine and Voyager, there's a lot more references that don't make sense in a moneyless society, a lot more modern things that make sense in a modern context, but in this utopia future, actually, like they keep forgetting it's supposed to be post-scarcity, and so they keep talking about, oh, we're running out of resources. Like, no, but you shouldn't be. You got replicators,
Sure.
that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think that gets to kind of the interesting ideas, is the intersection between the dramas and complications of our world versus what, I don't know, the ideal that Star Trek seems to propose. So I don't know, maybe we should start there. What is the appeal of Star Trek? What is the draw for this particular future, do you think, for people?
Well, I mean, you're talking about particularly the utopian future.
Yeah, I mean, we all love the space battles, but no, let's talk more about the society.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's just supposed to be a generalized, idealized utopian society where it's post-scarcity, there's no poverty, there's no war. Well, there's war with other alien species, but not within humanity. I mean, there's the Maquis, but again, that came after Roddenberry's passing. So, but it's supposed to be, like no wars, no poverty, very utopian. And also, like, Star Trek in general has a vision of the best of humanity. Like, even the more darker Star Trek shows like Deep Space Nine and even Discovery still latch on to that as their centerpiece, as the human race and bettering the humans and how they're inherently good and how we can strive to be better. So that's probably the biggest appeal of Star Trek. I think that in general, Star Trek creates like this idealized utopian society, but with no, like, I don't think Roddenberry had any idea how exactly we would get there or what the particulars were. That's why a lot of people who try to analyze, like, well, how does this society function without money and stuff like that, it's contradictory because none of the writers were on the same page. So if you look at different episodes and stuff in Star Trek, they all like contradict each other. And I think Roddenberry just had a lofty idea about what a future would look like, but none of the specifics.
Sure. And for something that's effectively a late 60s space Western, like you said, the action was kind of the more central piece, and the utopian future was really kind of the backdrop.
Well, yeah, and I will say that, I mean, he might have had a vague idea about the utopian future for the original series, but it was mainly during the 70s and 80s that he developed his high mighty ideas, like going to conventions and stuff. And that's why the first 2 seasons of Next Gen is where you get most of because that's when Roddenberry had full control, and a lot of the writers quit and hated him because he's like, there's no interpersonal conflicts. People don't mourn people after they die, and there's no lawyers. And he kept saying all this crazy shit. But if you notice, the first 2 seasons of TNG is when they have the most speeches about moneyless society and stuff like that. So that was him like preaching. Sure. And to be fair to the people who came after Michael Piller and Rick Berman, they tried to stay true to Roddenberry's vision. But I do notice a lot more cracks in it afterwards.
Sure. Well, I'm sure the demands for TV drama and everything.
Yes. Well, it was much better storytelling after Roddenberry left. Is the sad truth.
Okay, yeah, that is fair. Those first 2 seasons of TNG were, they're getting their feet. They're getting their feet. Yeah. So now from the other direction, why do you think that an ideal or utopian future like Trek tends to be more rare in sci-fi? Because usually we get a lot more of it's our world but in space. Even things like Star Wars or The Expanse or those types of things.
Right. I think it's because of what I was just talking about that it was harder to come up with interesting stories because stories strive on conflict.
Mhm.
And when you say, oh, there's a utopian future with no conflict, I mean, the easy cheat for Star Trek is, well, we can have aliens, and those aliens aren't as advanced as us, so that's where we can have conflict. We can have the Klingons, which is a metaphor for the Soviet Union, and the Romulans, which was a metaphor for later Soviet Union, and so you have, so you can do it that way, but for the most part, like the whole rule, and this rule, to be fair, they tried to uphold for the most part, even after Roddenberry's passing, of no like interpersonal conflicts between the crew and between humans themselves, and that's just harder to write. It's harder to write a paradise, and in fact, that's why they hardly ever visit Earth. In fact, Roddenberry had a rule that they never go to Earth. And once he passed, they did go to Earth a couple times. It looked like modern day because they didn't really know how to portray. And that's the whole point, is that they didn't know how to portray like a perfect paradise utopian. So it's harder to sell to a modern day audience, mainly because we're so far away from. And that's like, even prominent Star Trek writer Ronald D. Moore said that he totally disagreed with Roddenberry's vision and thought it was impractical and that it would never happen. And so he did Battlestar Galactica, which was an exact mirror of modern day society. And I actually feel the opposite. I feel like the Battlestar Galactica thing that's the one that's unrealistic, because I feel I'm more on Roddenberry's same page that if we're advanced enough to go to other planets, we have to conquer our societal problems first before we ever advance that far. And if we're still greedy and, have the corrupt society, then it's going to fall apart and they will never get to the point where they're out traveling the stars. So I have an opposite view of Ronald D. Moore.
Oh, that is interesting. And actually I do have a couple of questions on that. Rob, what about you? What's your pull on Star Trek? Is that something that you look at as kind of like an idealized future to strive for, or is it just maybe kind of entertainment, or what's your take on the Trek universe?
I mean, it's a definite I mean, I think that's on paper it sounds fantastic. I'm so cynical about us.
Sure.
But that's what I've always found the greatest amount of sci-fi in Star Trek, is that we got that far. You know what I mean? That we solved all those problems, and then now we can start, it's what I talk about all the time. It's what we talked about at the beginning of all of this, which was about being humanist and like what we as a people can achieve and what we have to do to get there. And this is what that end result kind of looks like for us, is, you get rid of those conflicts, you get rid of scarcity, like maybe it sucks that it had to get to scarcity and then everybody has to rely on replicators. But it's still a solution to that. Whatever bad crap that went down, they got to here to some kind of, all right, now we go from there, and now they go into space and start becoming, I never really watched a lot of it, so I don't know what the Federation's like. Are they space cops? No, I'm kidding. I mean, I know enough of like that, Kirk's whole mission and everybody's mission was to seek out new life and new worlds and learn.
Yeah.
And all that. And then they end up getting into the conflicts with all these other species and races and organisms and stuff.
I think that's actually a really good question. I mean, what is the difference between Earth and Starfleet and the Federation? Because a lot of times I think some of them kind of use interchange, but these are actually all different kind of entities, right? Marc?
So the United Federation of Planets was I think originally intended to be in the original series. It was originally intended to be like a UN, like a loose alliance of planets. But by the time we get to Next Gen and all those other shows, it's more like the United States, and every planet is a separate state. But the thing is that each planet keeps their own individual culture. That's why I've seen some people make criticism, like even the showrunner of Deep Space Nine. I don't think he understood the Federation because he used to make criticism that the Federation was trying to sort of assimilate everyone like the Borg, but that's absolutely not the case. It's the whole thing that Roddenberry came up with infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
Okay,
was
right.
his saying, and that's sort of at the heart of the Federation. That it's kind of one nation, but each is separate. Like each planet governs itself. Each planet has its own culture and individual distinct thing. But there are conditions to joining the Federation. Like, for example, if you still have slavery, you won't be allowed in.
Okay, that's a good rule.
Yes. And other like good rules and stuff like that. Again, the moneyless part of it, they're always very vague on, so I don't know exactly how that works. But I do know that the Federation usually, and Starfleet's also, this is probably a result of the show, but it's the exploration, scientific, and military wing of the Federation, which doesn't make sense to me. I feel like the military wing should be separate, but it's because they want our main characters to be the one fighting the battles.
They got to do all the jobs.
Yeah. They have to do everything, and there's also, I don't know if you're aware, there's a huge like ongoing argument within the fan base of whether or not Starfleet is a military organization. And a lot of people point to, well, they have ranks and all this, captain, lieutenant, all that. So they say, yes, sir. They take orders. So they hierarchy. They must be military. And then Roddenberry was very much against them being military, saying, no, absolutely not. They're not a military. That's why he didn't like Star Trek II, because Nicholas Meyer was throwing in a lot of military jargon and stuff like that. And he hated it because of that. But where I come down is, whether Starfleet's the military or not depends on who's writing the movie, who's writing the episode, and what they need at the time. So when people ask me, is Starfleet a military or is it not a military? I go, sure, I guess. Yes or no, I don't know. It all depends. It's very fluid in that regard.
Well, I mean, I figure even if you're exploring, the likelihood of you running into trouble is going to be is high, and thus, if you are just the only ship, you got to kind of do every job.
Sure, and I do get that, and I get why ships are armed and why they have weapons. But the thing is, when we see stuff like the Dominion War, it's Starfleet that's fighting it, which doesn't make sense to me. It feels like there should be a separate military wing that takes care of like the Marines or something like that, and it shouldn't be Starfleet officers. And I think again that's a convenient of, like, even Enterprise had their whole separate thing. They had the Makos,
right,
and that made perfect sense. But for some reason they dropped that, and the later centuries was actually the earlier shows. But yeah, so to me, it just didn't make any sense why they didn't have a separate military wing of the Federation.
Okay. Well, do we have any idea? I mean, the governing structure, again, most of the time we're dealing with Starfleet, which, while it is not a military organization, does seem to be organized in a similar type of military sense. Just that there are ranks and thus positions and permissions and things like that. Do we have any idea of like how the actual Earth government works?
There was a two-part of Deep Space Nine where they went to Earth and they were dealing with the Earth government, but I complained about that and said it didn't make any sense because they had the president of the Federation of Planets running Earth's defenses. And I'm like, wait, but that doesn't make any sense. That's like trying to think, that's like the president of the United States running the day-to-day of Texas. Like, there should be separate there should be like a governor or something of Earth, and all other indications say that is the case. So I like to believe that is the case, that each planet has their own separate government, but the United Federation of Planets government just takes care of like the overarching like things that deal with interstellar relations and trade and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I guess ultimately maybe the big question is, we kind of danced around it, and maybe there isn't an answer because, as you said, this was all kind of a very loose idea. But how actually does this future work? I mean, we have no money. Why do people work? Why don't, how do people get anything? How do they get their groceries? I mean, do we have kind of any idea of the kind of general idea of how this is? I know that we're talking about a post-scarcity world. But like, what does that mean?
So I have watched. Sorry, good.
No, you go.
Rob.
You go. Go.
Yeah.
You go.
Right. So I have watched a lot of videos about a lot of different theories, and the truth is, there is no real answer. You have to read between the lines and look into things. But I think the general idea is that it's post-scarcity. There's replicators that can make whatever you want, and therefore they don't really have to worry about resources. There are some things that are portrayed in the show as being limited resources. So they do have to do trade for some things and allocate certain resources, but the general day-to-day for the layman, for the everyday person, they're going to have all the resources they need. Is more of on an intergalactic scale is where their resources are kind of scarce and they have to barter with other creatures. And so if you listen to what Star Trek says, what Picard says, what having no money means, humanity works to better themselves. And I think the idea is, if you want to be an artist, you can be an artist. If you want to be a chef, you can be a chef. You can do whatever you want. And I think the idea is, and there is modern day schools of thought that also have this idea of having technology sort of make everything easy and reliable, like replicators and other things. That way people don't have to work shitty jobs they don't like, because technology can do that and make it easy for everyone to have unlimited resources. It's a funny thing, like talking about modern day, because I remember seeing a meme about AI saying, AI is supposed to do my laundry and clean my house so I can make movies and do art, not do art and make movies so I can do laundry and clean the house. So that's the general idea, I think.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a lot of the promise that we've put into AI is like, it's going to make the future where nobody has to work or do anything. But I mean, I guess one thing is we don't see a lot of in Star Trek is that level of automation or robots or types of things that are doing the basic work or doing those things. Or we just kind of assume those are in the background. Those are the things back through the Jeffrey tubes that we don't see, or
yeah, I mean, well, because it was made in the 60s and 90s, most things are very analog. But I think the general idea, and actually Discovery, you do see little robots going around doing all the meaningless, the menial, how you say it, the minor jobs nobody wants to do. And so basically replicators can get you practically anything you want. So I do think that the general idea is, that they do have a lot of automation. Like a computer they have holodecks and shit, and the computer can just do whatever you want, create whatever you want. And so I think the general idea is a lot is automated.
Well, and it's interesting to see if, like, what would you do given that if all of your basics at the very least were covered? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, what would there be incentive to work then? But I guess the idea here is like, I mean, what, people retire and then they go and look for things to do. Or you have somebody that's like, hey, I've always wanted to open a restaurant. I think that's Cisco's dad is cooking and all that. That's like a big love of his. So, I mean, I get the idea that this opens up the possibilities, is then you are free to study or explore the kind of ideas that you want.
So I think the general idea is that you don't have to work jobs you don't want to, that because it's so much that's, post-scarcity, you don't need to clean toilets or do anything like that. And so you're free to pursue your own sort of passion or whatever. And in fact, I remember I was watching something they were talking about modern day today, that something like 40 to 50% of jobs are completely unnecessary. Like society would function without them, but the reason why we have them is because people need to earn money. People need to work. And so they create these jobs that create stuff that, people don't need, or create systems that aren't necessary so that people will have enough jobs to work. So if you get rid of the system, the idea is you get rid of the system that requires you to earn money, and you have all this technology, then people never have to work jobs they don't need to.
Okay. Well, now let's assume that you have a bunch of people that then want to go into, I don't know, astrobiology. But there's only X many slots for astrobiology for people to go to work at, either here or there. Is there, I guess what I'm asking is there a different type? Is this based generally as a meritocracy as where people get things? Because you also got to figure out, like, where are you going to live, in the city versus out there versus another planet? Is it choice? Do people get, is it reputation? Is it, how good you are or necessary you are for a job depends on where you go.
So now we're getting into the territory of stuff that they never developed, that they haven't agreed on. Because so your guess is as good as mine on that. Like, they do show that people like Picard has his chateau and Cisco has his restaurant. So they show that people still have private property, but they don't at all indicate how that's allocated, or they just say there's no poverty. Okay, but what's the wiggle room there? Does some people have more wealth than others? Or it's kind of implied that they don't, but then I don't know, it just doesn't compute. So mind you, the whole thing with Picard having a chateau in Cisco's restaurant was after Roddenberry's passing. So again, we're getting into that thing. So the real answer is they don't know. They're just now. But as far as the meritocracy, that is implied in the structure of Starfleet, of the higher up structure. Like, I'm thinking of that episode Tapestry from TNG, where Picard has his alternate timeline where he never got in that fight, and he ends up like becoming, instead of being a captain, he never became a captain. He was like this lonely lieutenant junior grade scientist, and he hates that apparently. And I know some people hate that episode because they think that it demeans working lesser jobs, but that's not the point of the episode. The point of the episode was that Picard is capable of being a captain and would prefer to do that. But it may indicate that in the Star Trek universe, there may be people who, as you said, maybe not everyone can be a Starfleet captain. Like, there's only so many ships out there. So there may be people working jobs that they don't necessarily, like the job they really want, they can't get because of allocation. But again, as I said, that's never addressed how they handle that.
And like most of us would be willing to do a job we don't love the best if it might open up doors to get us to where we want to be down the road.
Yes.
Sure.
One of the aspects I think that's interesting about this is, again, we look at this and it's like, okay, that's where they got to. So how would we get there? And as we talk about it, like, what about like us has to change? And one of the big things would be, like, it sounds like everybody there is very educated, at least to the level that we would have to be to get rid of racism and things like that amongst ourselves, amongst wars. Does that mean that we also, like, how religious are people in on this earth now?
So, Roddenberry was a humanist. I think an atheist.
Mhm.
So religion is a topic they avoid like the plague as far as humans go. Other aliens will have religions. Klingons will have religions. Bajorans have religions. But whenever it comes to humans, they don't touch that subject with the 50-foot pole. Some of the more modern tracks like Strange New Worlds or Discovery did imply that there was still Christianity or some form of Christianity, but there was always very vague. And Kirk went to a Christmas party once. So
I was going to say, there's got to be Christmas. Just for marketing, they have to have Christmas.
I feel like in a world where everybody's like content and happy means that it's a world where you don't need religion. Like where you don't need those crutches as much. Like you might still fear that you're going to die, but if so many of your needs are taken care of, I think that you worry about it less. And when you are educated on top of that, and then your goals are, how do we develop humanity to its best possible outcome, then that's how you get this. I just like, that's again where I go, man, like the levels that we would have to get to, like but the thing is if we could actually do this, I say let's do it. It's just, people like us, we're not going to see this. These are these are time capsules. These are silly little time capsules that somebody like a couple of 100 years from now, if everything is still a spinning, then somebody could look at some of these things and go, wow, they were talking about this even back then, but it took us, the realization that it could still take a couple 100 years or so, how many bad things have to happen here. Well, the thing is there's a lot of bad things that are still going to happen. So maybe some of those things will help us get there.
So I think the most unrealistic part of Star Trek is the time frame. How this is supposed to be the original series 23rd century and Next Gen's 24th. I think it would have been much realistic to set it in like the 3000s, the 30th century or 31st century, because it's a long way off. But it is interesting that in Star Trek itself, it posits that things need to get worse before they can get better. Like there's apparently in the Star Trek history is World War III that happens in the 21st century, the mid 21st century, and it decimates almost the whole planet, and everyone's poor and it's crap, and that's when they come together and realize, the survivors realize, oh, we need to change things, and that's when they become better, create warp drive and meet the Vulcans, and everything gets better from there. And Strange New Worlds, which is more recent, was talking about it. I think it showed footage of January 6th and talked about how there's going to be a civil war, a second civil war in the United States right before World War III and stuff like that. So it's positing that things are going to get worse before they get better. So it's interesting you brought that up.
So even our idealized utopian future is post-apocalyptic, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just, instead of groveling in the dirt, we actually grow from it. Okay, well, that kind of sucks for us. Okay.
I mean, it does look like we are going in the wrong direction. Like I look at like these billionaires who are investing in AI, it seems like, and they're being completely reckless. So I think the sci-fi franchise, which is most likely in our future, is the Terminator. Like they're trying to create Skynet. Maybe that's just me being cynical.
Was just rewatching Fallout, because the new series is going to drop out, and a lot of the game and the series is, spoiler alert, by the way, for Bethesda's Fallout folks, is that Vault Tech, who creates the underground bunkers, is ultimately responsible for starting the war because it was a way to wipe out the competition. The best businesses to have is a monopoly, and if you wipe out everybody else, then it's only you. I It's ringing sadly true to a lot of things that say Peter Thiel and Sam Altman have been saying about their AI development, which does not make me feel very good. So, I mean, since obviously, while technology is really important with Star Trek and able to hit the post-scarcity world and stuff, ultimately what this requires, even in Star Trek lore, is a change of philosophy. Is humanity has to kind of look and go, there has to be a better way. I mean, do you think that that is, I guess it is positive that that is something that emerges from nearly destroying ourselves? And sadly, do you think that we have to get that far to do it? Or do you think that, I don't know, because after the development of the warp drive, we have the Vulcans, and suddenly there are aliens, there is a larger universe out there. Is that, do you think, something more than just surviving, avoiding self-destruction, the motivator to kind of get our shit together? That maybe that's that. Do you think that that plays a role in that, a change of philosophy?
Change of philosophy, yes. And I do think it's possible to do it without like having an apocalypse first.
That's good. I like that.
But it would take a very long time. It would be very gradual. I do see a lot of movements, and quite frankly, European countries and other countries are ahead of us in this regard of taking care of the society first and relying less on billionaires controlling everything.
Mhm.
And I think that can be happening gradually if we fight back against it. I honestly, not to sound classist or whatever, but I do think like tech billionaires and stuff like that are our biggest hurdle at the moment, because they're the ones stopping everything from, they're not really concerned about everyone prospering. I just watched this video about them creating their own private city in like Honduras or something, in a floating island that they're all going to go escape to when America goes to shit. So yeah, but I think it can be overcome gradually and eventually, or maybe it will take an apocalypse. I don't know, but I think because humanity needs to sort of come together, and that's sort of Roddenberry's vision, that they'll come together to help everyone out and not be so tribalistic.
Sure. Well, I think one of the points, I think, that Rob and I were talking about when we were having our How to Fix America discussion, was in a way a celebration of the individual. And that seems to be something that is important to the, I don't know, social agreement, social contract, cultural basis of Star Trek's Earth, is because it's very much a celebration of the diversity and the contributions everybody can bring in. Nobody is against. Even the blind person can become the greatest engineer of his time, for instance, if we're talking about Geordi.
Yeah, it does definitely. I mean, a lot of people will point to Star Trek as being a socialist utopia, and in many ways it is, but socialist in the way that Norway is socialist, not socialist in the way like Cuba is or Soviet Union, because that's authoritarian socialism. They're talking about more democratic socialism, and Star Trek does a lot emphasize individualism, especially if you look at Seven of Nine's arc in Voyager. The whole thing about her becoming an individual and escaping a collective, to me, it's kind of a metaphor from escaping communism and, the whole everyone is one and there's no individuals or whatever. And so it does value individualism as well as collectivism, sort of a amalgamation of both.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's often referred to, I think, as space communism is what I've heard, though. I always make me laugh because
it's not accurate.
yeah, I mean, well, yes, but also, okay. Look, I still get laughed when people are concerned about communism. Look, the Communist Manifesto was written in what, 1847? Okay, it's almost 200 years old. It was written when trains were the big technological advancement. So I don't tie a whole lot into Marx and Engels' whole discussion. But even them in the book, and something that's often overlooked, they said that a communist society must be technologically advanced. That there must get to a point of technological advancement. And I think where you're dealing with a lot of post-scarcity ideas where this can really work. Which has always made me laugh is because the countries that tend to go communist tend to be very much not technologically advanced at the time. So I don't know, more I guess of a social commentary there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think one of the other big deals is like, you know, the lack of prejudice in the future. I remember even Kirk berates one of his ensigns, you know, leave your bigotry in your quarters, but it has no place on the bridge, or something along those lines.
Well, that's the thing. There was still some bigotry towards other aliens, not towards other humans. Like they were overcome it within humanity, but then some people still have that problem with other aliens. It's funny. I don't know. You probably just watched Enterprise, right? There was a two-parter towards the end of Enterprise, which had the guy who played RoboCop.
Oh yeah, Peter Weller.
Peter Weller. Yeah. He guest starred, and he was playing Rush Limbaugh. I don't care what anyone says. He was doing a full-on Rush Limbaugh impersonation, but instead of being racist towards other humans, he was being racist towards aliens. And that kind of because Enterprise is like the early days before the Federation became. So that actually kind of makes sense that we evolved from being racist against other races, but now we're racist against aliens, which I think adds up. Yeah,
the Terra Prime arc. You want to go badass, you bring in Peter Weller to be your Star Trek villain. And that's how we do that. Because he was the villain in Star Trek
Into Darkness.
Into Darkness, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He's a timeless villain, always coming back. Yeah, because I think that's I mean, the lack of the general acceptance of beliefs, of races, of sexuality, of all of that, I think is one of the biggest draws that I know for a lot of people with Star Trek, is because it's just one of those worlds where you can be who you want. There isn't an attack against that, and in some ways, I think it's even celebrated. You know,
and that's sorry, that's what was baked into Star Trek. Like I said, the infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Like that's what the original series was known for, having, you know, an Asian, a Russian, a Scottish person, a black woman, all working together in high positions, and it's built from that. And that's why I find it so incredibly absurd, like laughably absurd, whenever I see someone say Star Trek has gone woke. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
not news for you, buddy. It's always been woke. But the thing is that they may say, oh yeah, but we didn't have all these trans people and gay people in the original series. So I'm like, well, that's because they couldn't do it in 60s network television. If they could, they would have. We know that for a fact that Roddenberry wanted to have gay people in the Enterprise D, but the studio wouldn't let him. So it is always woke relative to the time it was released. Like the original series doesn't seem woke now, but in the 60s, fuck yeah, it was a lot.
Often considered the first interracial kiss on network television, though technically you didn't see it because they turned away. So
yeah, and it's American television.
American television.
Britain did it before, but
there's no other television but American television.
That's right.
Did the doctor kiss a black lady or something?
Kirk did.
No, I meant Doctor Who.
Oh, Doctor Who.
Because you said in America. So
it wasn't Doctor Who. It was some random show I'd never heard of.
Oh, okay.
I can't
like Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Well, they did. The vicar accidentally kisses the maid, you know, and the maid happens to be a black lady, you know, just cause.
Well, yeah, because TNG had Data's kid, who he gave the opportunity to choose its own gender. You had the one with Riker, where he goes to the kind of falls for the lady that, I don't know, can be. I couldn't remember if they could be either gender or they were genderless.
They were genderless.
Yeah.
And she broke that by being female, and she was ostracized for being identifying as female.
Right.
So that was an accidental analogy for trans, because they meant to have it as an analogy for gay people. It actually,
hey, maybe Pluribus is just a prequel to Star Trek.
Well, there you go.
Oh, that would be cool.
I haven't watched it yet, so. But Deep Space Nine also had Dax, who used to be a man and a woman in past lives, and so that's a lot of people see that as a trans analogy. And they had one, not the first, but again one of the first same-sex couple kisses, a lesbian kiss on Deep Space Nine that I think gets overlooked a lot.
Oh yes, I remember that one. That was between Dax and an ex-wife or something.
Yes,
like that, right?
ex-wife. Yeah.
So I remember that being kind of a big thing at the time.
And I always see like memes where people were like saying Star Trek is woke, and they show a picture of like the two women kissing in the 90s. Like, you know, this is what Star Trek in the 90s, guys.
It's like you can't say it's woke now and pull up a 30-year-old picture.
Yeah, that's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that has pretty much covered most of my little questions. Because, I mean, I think it is something where we need to have kind of a philosophical change before the technology. Because as we see right now, advanced technology in our current philosophy, we're just going to kill ourselves.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
AI or climate or any of that stuff. I think ultimately what to even begin the Federation or that type of future is we've got to have a change in philosophy that hopefully doesn't come via war.
Sorry. Yeah, so I was just gonna say, like, I think having lofty ideals and having stuff like Star Trek out there is good. Like, that will help push us in the right direction. Like, but I was just thinking in general, like the moneyless society, people like I was talking about Ronald D. Moore and Ira Stephen Bear and a couple others who were involved in Star Trek. They actively disbelieved in it. They said society would never function like this. And I think they're dead wrong. And I think the general idea is that we get rid of greed, we make acquiring things and having billionaires run everything, get rid of that, and society can function. I think if you do have advanced technology, you could get to a point. Like there was like this project about, I think there was these libertarians or whatever, but it was that they had this idea of creating like this city with all this advanced technology, and eventually to get to a point where the robots and everything would do all the menial work and people wouldn't have to work. They thought that was possible here on Earth. Now, I disagreed with some of their philosophies, but I think that is the general idea, and I do think it is possible. I mean, you do have to have, and some people point out, you do have to have some kind of economic system, and they do point out that Star Trek does in general, because they do trade for rare materials and stuff like that. So you do always have to have an economic system, but to not have the economic system be so dependent on people getting healthcare and eating and surviving and having shelter, and there's a way to move beyond that, I believe.
Well, Rob, I was hoping that we would go for like a cheerier, happier episode, but as all of our stuff is, it appears that to get to Star Trek, much like all of our other podcasts, it ends in revolution.
Always ends in revolution in some fashion. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe that's the answer.
yeah. You know, I mean, that's
Games
fair.
keep
We're
coming up with
trying to go for
resolutions.
something happier here.
Yep. Every time we roll that D20, it just keeps coming up. Natural one.
Well, I think the problem is if you talk about modern times, it's hard to go for happy. If we're talking just about Star Trek, then okay.
Well, we can end on a happier note. I mean, you just made that video about Kill Bill that I thought was really good. I was really happy to see that somebody, like, I'm glad that you were tackling a topic that was just something that you felt like talking about kind of randomly.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that video. I went and saw it later that day. I know, Darren, you haven't seen the whole thing put together probably, but you've seen Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Oh yeah,
right?
I've seen the 2 halves, but I haven't seen it with the additional little animated section in the middle now.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
That was I want to just say, like, it's nice living in that time period where every once in a while, in these like really crappy times, I mean, it's the weather here is terrible. You know, a friend comes up in the middle of all of this and you don't know what else to do. And, you know, I had just seen that video and then we were like, how often do you get to go see a movie that's over 20 years old with your friend and going to do that and sitting there and experiencing a movie like Kill Bill all at once, sitting there. And I'm, again, because I saw that movie a bunch of times when it first came out. And again, just that joy of the cinema that I could, again, it makes me sad because it's like we used to just all go to the movies together and have all these great memories, and I have all these great memories of going to the movie and enjoying the people around me. I don't even care. And now I still just think about going to the movies and I go, God, I hope there's no one there.
Oh yeah.
And that's like the downfall of movies, right? Is maybe I didn't, and I'm not ending this on a happy note. But
cinema's still great, people.
It was really worth doing. I'm glad they made it. But at the end of the day, I don't like, it was more fun just having the experience than expecting anything different or new from it. Other than the transfer I saw looked really good. It was really, really good looking. And yeah, that extra anime scene it answered a weird question that I had in my head for like a really long time. And I know I could Google it, but it's one of those things that pops in your head and then disappears like as soon as something else pops, takes your attention away. And that was like in that section where the guy with the ring in the anime, the one that's like a more slick back looking guy, when they answer like who that is, that I kept thinking, is that Bill? Like in some like way messed up like story where she, like she ended up working with the guy who killed her parents, but in this you find out it's not that guy. Other than that, also, I mean, I didn't really notice too many changes in the second movie at all.
No, I think that little animation was really the only thing they added in. They took away the end bit in the first movie, and they took away the intro of the second movie, so it flows better. But other than that, I don't think there's really any other changes. And by the way, like every critic I've seen, like 5 or 6 are all saying that it's so much better that the first movie no longer spoils the ending of the second movie, because originally it had that end where they revealed that her child survived, and they took that out. So if you're watching it for the first time, you don't find out until she finds out, and it's so much better that way.
Yeah. But I can't. It's gonna be weird because they're gonna start putting out movies that are more recent. That's gonna make me feel old when they start putting out movies from like 2010 era. Like when they start re-airing all the MCU movies. Do you remember where you were when Iron Man came out? When they'll just, and it's like every month for the next blah blah blah, or maybe every twice a month we're gonna re-roll out.
I already feel really old thinking of Kill Bill as more than 20 years old.
Right? 2003.
Oh God, I remember clearly seeing it.
I remember when they were talking about Kill Bill and it was going to star Warren Beatty.
Oh, that was the original idea, yeah. But
so I mean, I remember that's like way before the movie even came out.
Yeah.
Like I was talking, there was talk about this movie. So
Well, yeah, because I was watching a thing saying they originally wanted Warren Beatty. They also asked Kevin Costner or Burt Reynolds, and even though those are all bigger names, I can't see. I think David Carradine would have fit the role way better than any of us. I think they did the right choice, and he's not what I would call a good actor, but he's so perfect for that role.
And it gave him a nice little career boost. He started popping up in a few things again after that. It's like, oh, we remember David Carradine all of a sudden.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's what Tarantino always does.
Yep, he cast the perfect guy to play Bill. So anyway, okay. See, now we did end on a nice note.
I like that. Good job.
But then, unfortunately, I got to bring us right back down again because we remember what happened to David Carradine. So, hey. At least I was gonna, what I was gonna have us do at the beginning of this thing was talk about Rob Reiner. So hey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could, I'll say something about it right now. I mean, it's just that took the wit. I was just like, wow.
Oh no, destroyed my whole evening. My wife was out of it. This is just such a tragedy for the Reiner family and their friends and loved ones. It's just it's a horrific tragedy, and not the way that you would want to see someone of such a storied career end. But this is,
so now we're sad again.
Right. Well, but then to raise us back up, I saw right after, like yesterday, we watched This Is Spinal Tap 2.
Very nice.
I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I haven't yet.
Guess what? It was actually really nice. Okay, it's not as great or as original as the original movie, but you will find yourself liking, and it's soft. It's a soft one, but it's still really its heart's in the right place. They're still great. Their improvising hasn't gone down. Rob Reiner is great in it. Okay, they bring back. It's nice in the end that he was able to, because they were talking about how he's never franchised any of his things. There's no sequels to The Princess Bride or anything else.
Right.
And that at the end he got to do basically how what he got him started after like All in the Family, right? Was making this in the late 70s and then coming back to it without knowing that this was going to be the last thing he did. I think that it's a really nice and fitting send-off for him. The movie's got a lot of really dark humor that, again, I think they all appreciate. And even in these dark times, like you can laugh at dark things. And even though this is a tragedy and everything, like it's nice that we've got everything that he's ever done to look back on. And that you can't, whatever happened, why it happened, mental illness is a thing.
Yeah.
You got to keep dealing with, and it takes away from everyone and everything. And but yeah, we've got movies like When Harry Met Sally and Stand By Me and
Princess Bride.
Yep. I mean, and
no.
more than that, way more than that. And
He had a run of films from the 80s to the 90s, from Spinal Tap all the way up to A Few Good Men, that were just like all classics, all gems. So no, a great
and he was great in cameos. He was always seemed like a really good sport to like make fun of himself and things like that. Not take himself too seriously.
I think the one silver lining whenever we have a tragic passing of a celebrity is that people on social media do like celebrate that person and their body of work, and I do appreciate that. However, it's gotten to the point where wherever I see like a post on Facebook or something and saying celebrating this person and it shows all their career, I'm like, oh my god, did they die?
Yeah.
But it's not always the case.
yeah, totally. All right. Well, I think that covers everything. Mark, what seasons are you covering right now? Because this guy's got every episode of Star Trek reviewed. Well, I mean, almost. He's been working on this for ages. So
it's been a project for sure. So yeah, I am up to season because I'm doing it by air date, and Voyager and Deep Space Nine aired together, so I'm reviewing them together. So I'm up to season 5 of Deep Space Nine and season 3 of Voyager. So everything up to that point, all the original series movies, Next Generation, first 5 seasons of Deep Space Nine, first 3 seasons of Voyager covered. I've also done all the modern Trek shows because I started them as they were airing. And lots of other things like Rob mentioned my Kill Bill video recently, got random stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm doing over on Enchantment of Eternity. End of the year, I'll be doing my top 10 movies of the year and top 10 shows. So that's something to look out for the end of the year.
Excellent. And of course, Rob and I over on Smirking Gun have been covering Pluribus. I think by the time this airs, the finale will be coming up this Friday, so you can catch us over on Smirking Gun. Oh, no.
Penultimate.
Oh, it's the penultimate. That's right. Oh, see, they went to 9, and it's the penultimate, and the penultimate's so good. So, look, you still got a couple more. So, Friday nights over at Smirking Gun Reviews, you can catch this guy and I talking about one of the awesome shows on Apple TV.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It was a blast. It's great to come aboard and just shoot the shit with you guys.
Yeah, no. It was good. And thank you for being our first official guest. I'm sure we will have you back again and again.
Yeah.
I know. We're breaking into the big time now, folks. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob. Any final things to say goodbye with? Anything I'm missing out? I know you've been doing some plays on your on Smirking Gun also.
Well, there is something that I'm going to be talking about, there's something we're going to discuss after we press end recording. But then I've been playing a lot of games. It's the end of the year, so there's a kind of a push for me to finish and platinum games that have been sitting around. I just platinumed Uncharted, which is a very, very rare it's a game that I never thought I would ever get the platinum for because of the difficulty spikes and everything, which has kind of gotten me to look at some of my percentage of games of how, like, if I'm close, I'm going to try to go finish some of these games up completely. So that's what I'm doing right now, other than talking with you on Pluribus and and just trying to live my life.
Excellent. And you folks, live your lives too. Have a great holiday. Congratulations on surviving 2025. You all did it.
Yeah. But also, don't forget, watch out for Nazis.
Always watch out for Nazis.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
To to this meeting of the Hub City National Socialist Club.
Oh boy. Nazis.
Yeah, GI. These are Nazis.
Coin-operated boy. Made of
Get ready to die, Nazis!
GI?